Do excuse me. I think I've got the sniffles. Hello, Whovians, and welcome to my latest Doctor Who review, where today I review Human Nature and the Family of Blood, starring David Tennant as the 10th Doctor. This is the 185th Doctor Who story overall, and it's a very different kind of Doctor Who story, but more on that in just a sec. So the basic plot is as follows. In England in 1913, schoolteacher John Smith experiences amazing dreams of living an incredible life as a mysterious adventurer called the Doctor, fighting monsters and seeing faraway worlds. So, Human Nature and the Family of Blood. This is a very unorthodox Doctor Who story. It's a very different idea, and I actually really like the idea very much. The Doctor has to turn himself human to hide away from this alien family who are hunting him and Martha down. And so the Doctor changes himself into a English schoolteacher called John Smith, and Martha joins him as well and works as a maid at the school, and together they are hiding away, and the Doctor has rewritten his biology and contained it inside a fob watch, and he keeps that with him, although the human version of him doesn't think anything of it. To him it's just kind of a watch. And it's a very intriguing idea to see how the Doctor is as a human, or well, John Smith. So essentially this is a very interesting story for David Tennant, because he's playing two characters this time. I really like the differentiation between John Smith and the Doctor. You can clearly see David Tennant going for it with John Smith. He's playing this part so well. It's actually a really emotional story, and I really do like it. I really think it's a very cleverly written story. The script is very good by Paul Cornell, and it's very clear that they're trying to make you sympathise with John Smith, the character. And as much as he dreams about these faraway worlds and being the Doctor, he doesn't want to die. And that's the crucial choice that is made here. And it's a very emotional one, because actually John Smith, the Doctor as John Smith, falls in love with the matron, otherwise known as Joan. And people are dying as well. And the stakes are just raised so high here. And there's just so much drama going on in this one. It's a real emotional tearjerker, actually. Because you actually really do grow to like John Smith as a character, because he's not a bad guy. He's actually a really lovely guy, and he's a great teacher. He's a great person. He's obviously authoritative when he needs to be, but he loves Joan, and there's a really nice chemistry there with David Tennant and Jessica Hynes, I believe it is. Honestly, this is one of David Tennant's best performances by far, and when he does turn back into the Doctor, it's definitely a moment that's been built up, and it's worth it. But I really enjoyed seeing the human side, John Smith, and seeing his journey of how he's struggling to know what to do, and in the end it's very powerful. He gives his life to bring the Doctor back, and it's a real gut punch in the feels. It really is. All being well, if this family had never found them, John Smith could have lived a happy life with Joan and had kids and married, and we actually see visions of that in the second episode, Family of Blood. We see them and what their life would have been like if they'd stayed together and married, and how and he sees visions of his death as well. So what really works about this story is how poignant it really is. It really is very emotional, and I like that. However, I do believe the standout performance this time, well, I mean, as well as David Tennant's incredible performance, Freema Agyeman. Freema Agyeman is excellent in this story as Martha. Martha carries this story. Martha really has to take charge in this one, because the Doctor is, well, absent, and he's turned human. So Martha really takes control, and this is where Martha's true qualities come into play. I think some of the fans do undervalue Martha, and I think the problem with Martha as well is that she was kind of sandwiched in between Rose and Donna. And the fact is that both Rose and Donna had a massive impact on the show, and Martha's just kind of piggy in the middle. But Martha proves in this story how brave she really is. She puts her life on the line for the Doctor, and even though it kills her to see him falling in love with someone else, she still stands by the Doctor. And my goodness me, you cannot deny Martha's loyalty. It really is great. The one criticism I would have is when Martha says, you had to go and fall in love with a human, and it wasn't me. That's a Rose Tyler line. That's not Martha line. I don't like that. Even though I don't like the fact that Martha loves the Doctor, I do appreciate that Martha has become a lot more brave, a lot more courageous, and she is starting to stand out, and she is starting to take control and take charge. And the Doctor, in the end, he really appreciates what she's done, and he thanks her. They have a massive hug. You can see how close they are now as friends. But I also really like the character of Joan. Joan Redfern, who's played by Jessica Hines. She's the matron at the school. And she's actually been on quite a journey already. And it's kind of sad for her because history really repeats itself. She loses yet another man that she loves. She's lost a husband already. Apparently he was shot for some reason, because she goes to see the boys practicing their shooting, because this is set in 1913, before the First World War. And it sort of hits home for her. And she really finds a lot of love and a lot of comfort in John Smith. And their love story, I think, is actually rather sweet, and it blossoms into a nice romance. There's that wonderful, sort of lovely moment when they kiss, and Martha walks in and she doesn't quite know how to take that. But for Joan, she starts to finally feel happy, and she actually kind of likes the fact that John Smith has an imagination. But the fact is, when the Doctor reappears at the very end and he says, travel with me as my companion, she doesn't go there, and quite rightly so, in my opinion. I think it would have been weird if Joan became a companion, because also for her, emotionally, it just doesn't feel right. She's looking at the same man, but clearly he's not. Clearly, he is the Doctor, and she didn't love the Doctor. She loved John Smith, and she's grieving. You know, she lost another love of her life, and it's painful. It's really sad to see her go through that grief. But it's very well played, and it's so well written. In the end, though, Joan is the strong one, and I think she convinces John Smith that it is the right thing to do, and to save everybody else. It's got to be done. Give them the watch, and then they'll go away. There is a great cast in this story. I also have to mention Tim Latimer, played by Thomas Sangster. Thomas Sangster is a great little actor, and he comes into possession of the watch, and he's slowly opening it up every so often. So the Doctor is gradually coming back, and he's actually communicating to him through the watch, which I think is interesting. And Tim gets a vision of the Doctor and everything that he sees and how wonderful he is, and then he tries to convince John Smith that they need the Doctor to defeat the family. And it's a really great character, and he's actually being bullied, he's being mocked by his classmates, but then he proves to really stand up and take charge. And there's a scene at the end where we see him in the war with his bully, and he actually saves his bully's life, which is really powerful. And to add to the emotion, the very last shot of this episode is very interesting, when we see him as an old man and he's in a wheelchair and he's still got the watch, which is brilliant. And then he sees the Doctor and Martha. They come back, and from a distance they're watching him. I think they're at some kind of memorial for the dead, and they're wearing poppies, and I think it's Remembrance Day. It's a really powerful moment, and it's very sad. A sad way to end the story. It really is. As for the villains, yeah, I like them. I think they're pretty good, this alien family. There isn't much said about their origins or their species or where they're from, so perhaps we could have had a bit more detail about that. It is rather vague. All we see is this sort of mist that infects Baines, the Jeremy Baines, and then we have four members. We have the father, the mother, the son, and the daughter. And together they go on this rampage to find the Doctor, because they need a Time Lord's consciousness or whatever to survive. But of course, they're going around causing terror, and they're using these scarecrows as their soldiers to infiltrate the school. And that's a pretty good action scene when we see John Smith. He's reluctant to fire the gun because he thinks back to what Joan said about killing people, and she knows that John wouldn't want that. She knows that John is a much more of a moral person, but everybody else and all the boys are fighting. There's actually a shot where we see one of the boys crying, and he's trying to hold back his tears. So, like I said, this story is constantly drawing in on the poignancy of the moment. The scarecrows are okay. They're pretty cool, as you would expect. The design is quite basic, but I wouldn't say they're scary as such, but they're pretty good for fitting in with the world of the story, so I like them. The four main villains are very good, and the ending is very interesting when the Doctor, he gives them what they want. He does let them live forever. they want eternal life, but he gives it to them at a cost. The Doctor imprisons the father and the mother, although the father is wrapped in chains and the mother is sent into like a black hole. The daughter is trapped in a mirror, and the son is trapped in the fields as a scarecrow. His body is basically in this sort of frozen state, but they're still alive, and he hasn't killed them, so he has given in to what they want. And there's that great narration from the son when he says, you know, he was being kind, the Doctor was being kind, and we realised the fury of a Time Lord, and we realised what we did, and we were thankful that he let us live. So I think it's an interesting commentary on the Doctor as a character and how he will unleash, if you push him to the very edge, he will snap, and he will do things that you will regret. But yeah, the story has two parts, and I think for the most part it moves pretty well. It does take a while to get going, but if you stick with it, it's a very interesting story. There's also a great scene with a cricket ball where John Smith, he grabs a cricket ball from a boy, and then he throws it, and as a piano falls down, and he stops a woman and a child from being hit by the piano. So it's a pretty heroic moment. They wanted to give John Smith one heroic moment to show how much he wanted to be the Doctor, and it works well for the story. And I also like the journal as well, the Journal of Impossible Things, that he writes and illustrates everything that's in his head. Obviously, clearly the memories of the Doctor are in his subconscious, and he even writes Rose in there as well. Yeah, I know, another reference to Rose. But also, he draws images of his previous incarnations, so I like that. That was a very nice reference. Also, the music by Murray Gold, oh my god, fantastic. Fan-bloody-tastic. It's just great music, and it really is just emotional, very emotional. And I think the cliffhanger for Human Nature is awesome. Baines says to John Smith, which one do you want us to kill, maid or matron? Your choice. And they're holding guns at Martha and Joan, and I think that's a great intense moment to end on. The only thing I'll say is, isn't it a bit weird how John Smith still has the same haircut as the Doctor? He still has the spiky, sort of sticky uppy hair. That wouldn't really fit in 1913, would it? Maybe they could have changed David Tennant's hairstyle just for when he was John Smith. But whatever, it's only a minor thing. I'm just nitpicking at this point. So in the end, Human Nature and the Family of Blood, it is a fantastic Doctor Who story. One of the best David Tennant stories. It's a little unorthodox. The idea is quite interesting, but I think it's no less great because of that. I also think the moments where we see the Doctor changing, when he's putting that thing on his head and Martha's watching him change, that's a pretty freaky scene. So overall, I am definitely going to score Human Nature and the Family of Blood a 10 out of 10. To say though, one other thing I didn't understand was why in the second part, when they're looking through all the boys and they go, which one of them has the watch, and the girl's like, no, like she's already seen Latimer with the watch, like she knows what he looks like. Why are they looking through all the boys to check which is the right one? I just don't get it. Thank you very much all for watching this review, and stay tuned next time when I review the penultimate story of Doctor Who Series 3, Blink. So until next time, I'm Mr. TARDIS11, thank you very much for watching, and see you soon. Bye for now.